You think you miss your ex, but you actually just miss being boring. We live in a culture obsessed with closure, rewriting history to make our past relationships look like tragic love stories. But let us peel back the romantic layers of your late-night nostalgia and look at the raw, unvarnished truth. On those specific days when you are too tired to speak a single word, when the weight of the world crushes your chest, your mind playing a trick on you. You sit on the edge of your bed, staring at a blank wall, and a specific face pops into your head. You convince yourself that you are brokenhearted, that you miss the way they laughed, the way they held your hand, or the way they understood your silence. You might even reach for your phone, ready to type a pathetic text message begging for a second chance. Stop right there. Look closer at what you are actually feeling. You do not miss that person at all. In fact, if they walked through your door right now, you would probably remember within 5 minutes exactly why you left them or why they left you. The truth is much more selfish, much more exhausting, and entirely transactional. You do not miss a human being. You miss a psychological safety net that you no longer possess. You miss the luxury of absolute, unfiltered social bankruptcy. Think about your current life. Every single day is a nonstop performance of competence. You wake up, put on your professional armor, and step into a world that demands constant, exhausting explanation. You have to explain your decisions to your boss, explain your emotions to your friends, explain your existence to strangers on the internet, and explain your lifestyle choices to your family. You are constantly on stage, projecting energy you do not have, wearing a mask of functional adulthood. Your energy grid is flashing red, completely depleted. And then, the weekend hits or the night falls, and the silence in your apartment becomes deafening. In that exact moment of absolute exhaustion, your brain searches its historical archives for the last time you did not have to gong len, the last time you did not have to perform. And it finds your past relationship. It remembers a Tuesday night 3 years ago when the two of you sat on a cheap sofa, eating cold pizza, staring at a television screen for 4 hours without exchanging a single word. There was no pressure to be funny, no need to be attractive, no obligation to be successful, and absolutely zero requirement to explain why you were sad. You were just two bodies occupying the same space, resting your guards simultaneously. That is what you are craving. You are craving the absence of judgment, the death of expectations, the rare privilege of being a completely useless human being in the presence of another witness without losing their respect. We lie to ourselves because acknowledging this truth feels incredibly ugly. It is much easier to pretend we are hopeless romantics suffering from a grand, tragic heartbreak than to admit we are just deeply tired, lonely consumers who want a free emotional charging station. If you look back honestly, that person you are romanticizing was probably incompatible with you. They had flaws that drove you insane. They had habits that made you bitter. The relationship ended because it was broken, not because it was a masterpiece cut short. Yet, your selective memory wipes out all the fights, all the slammed doors, all the text messages left on read, and all the slow, painful realization that you were drifting apart. It edits all of that out, leaving only a glossy, cinematic montage of quiet comfort. Why? Because your current ego cannot handle the fact that you are entirely alone in your current exhaustion. It is a defense mechanism. By pretending you miss a specific person, you give your loneliness a name and a destination. It makes the pain feel directional. If the problem is just that you miss them, then the solution is simple, even if it is impossible. But if you admit that you do not miss them, you are forced to face a much more terrifying reality. You are currently living a life so profoundly draining that you have completely forgotten how to be at peace with your own silence. Look around your apartment right now. Look at the people you date now, the friends you hang out with, the colleagues you grab drinks with. Every interaction feels like an interview. You are constantly monitoring your tone, adjusting your posture, making sure you say the right things to keep the peace or advance your status. Even when you try to date someone new, the first few months are an agonizing marathon of self-marketing. You have to sell your best version. You have to explain your trauma, explain your career goals, explain your favorite movies, and explain why you are the way you are. It is exhausting. It is a second job. So when you hit a wall, when your soul feels like a dry sponge, your brain naturally rebels against the effort required to build something new. It looks backward because the past requires zero data entry. The past is already coded, already paid for, already familiar. You do not want that specific person back in your bed, you just want to skip the interview process of human connection. You want the shortcut to intimacy. You want the end result of a 5-year relationship, the part where you can look like garbage and say nothing without doing any of the actual emotional heavy lifting required to get there with someone new. It is pure laziness disguised as love. It is time to stop romanticizing your ghosts. They do not deserve the credit for your current burnout. They were not your saviors. They were just the people who happened to be there when you still had the capacity to trust. The harsh reality is that the comfort you remember was a product of time, not a product of magic. It took months of awkward conversations, misunderstandings, and gradual adjustment to reach that level of silent coexistence. You cannot copy and paste that feeling into your current state of exhaustion. And more importantly, reaching back to someone who belongs in your past is not going to cure your present fatigue. It is like trying to drink from a dry well just because you remember it used to hold water. It is an exercise in futility that only leaves you feeling more depleted, more pathetic, and deeply disconnected from the reality of your current existence. The next time you find yourself sitting in the dark, too tired to speak, feeling that familiar ache of nostalgia creeping up your throat, do not open your contact list. Do not scroll through old photos. Force yourself to sit with the emptiness. Acknowledge the ugly truth. You are just an exhausted adult who has run out of words. You do not need an old flame to validate your silence. You do not need a familiar body to make your quietness acceptable. The silence belongs to you now, and you have to learn to carry it alone, without using a ghost as an emotional crutch. It is a bitter pill to swallow, but it is the only way to actually wake up. You do not miss the love that you lost. You just lack the strength to stand alone.